Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Sullivan, and I want to welcome you to the University Unitarian Universalist Society Fellowship. And we are here, some of us are in person, but lots of people are online today, and I want to welcome everyone to our service today. So that we can all enjoy the time that we have together, if you have something that dings or buzzes or draws your attention or distracts you, if you want to turn it off so that we can really enjoy our time together, that would be great. All right, committee moments is usually where we start. So does anybody here in the audience have an announcement? You can come up to the microphone. And in addition, the announcements were scrolling online before they started, so that's also a good place for people to learn about what's going on in the community.
Thank you, Sarah. My first announcement today is on behalf of John Mowbray, the chair of our outside facilities and the one that gets us all here for Workday. Next Saturday, the 18th, 19th, whatever next Saturday is, I forgot to check the date, is our last workday, our last chance to get to get this place spruced up before our reopening on July 25th. Because, it's the 17th? Okay, you're right, because you're right, it's the 17th. So show up and help us put the last finishing touches on the building. We also are looking for someone, especially for folks to pick weeds. I can probably do that. I don't have a lot of skills, but I can do that. And that have carpentry skills to build a new gate for the dumpster. It's empty right now, so the bears will be able to get in. So he has the wood. So if you have some carpentry skills and you'd like to put that in place, come help us. And there's plenty of other things to do. So as we work towards our reopening on July 25th, which is so exciting, we've been apart for so long, and hopefully we'll have a full house that morning. So thank you very much. I think that's all I have.
Hi, Joey Cole for SAC, which is our Social Action Committee. We are still doing bingos for the Maxwell Gardens and Maxwell Terrace, which are the Pathlight homes that are helping to house those who have been chronically homeless. So they are looking for household items for bingo prizes, sheets, towels, artwork. I got some artwork and some candles and a small rug. We've got, they want pillows, anything at all, including toiletries. If you want to put together a packet of toiletries, can be full size since these people are housed, not like when we were collecting for the Christian Service Center. At any rate, we are looking for bingo prizes, and we're going to be doing this for a couple of months. So look in your closets or go out and buy something new and donate it. We'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to all the people who participate in this congregation in so many ways. So, my opening words this morning is called The Bright Thread of Hope by Gretchen Haley. There is too much beauty in this world to give up on it yet, and it is always too soon to surrender to cynicism. Bring your doubt, your skepticism, your downright confusion, even your bitterness. But in the midst of all of these, in this center, wrap your tender fingers around that still, bright thread of hope. Feel in your heart that still, steady hunger for something more. The vision we glimpse every day in the rising sun, across the foothills, the light that spreads across the face of the one we love, the look of knowing and still loving us just as we are, loving life just as it is. For this hour, we come to celebrate, to praise, to give thanks, to refuse to give up, to steady ourselves, we, the keepers of hope, brave builders of this still possible world. Thank you. Opening music will be Come Sing a Song with Me. For the lighting of the chalice today, I want to welcome up Ethan, who had so many joys, including a bike ride, getting a bus, and a bumper. You want to come? We can. There we go. Let me wait 1 second while I hold the candle for you.
Fantastic.
Thank you. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. And our society's affirmation: love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. I'd like to take this time to welcome any visitors who have joined today, visitors who are here in the audience, as well as visitors who have joined us online. I want to welcome everybody who's chosen to join our service today, and I want to welcome you back because we have a different speaker every week. So we have different topics, different perspectives, people with different passions. So come back many times, see what we have to offer here, and give us a chance to welcome you to this community. Our interlude and offering is our opportunity to both support this congregation and another organization in the community that is doing good work. Our offering for this period of time is we are sharing it with Pathlight Home. This is an organization working to provide affordable housing and services to people in our Central Florida community. I'm so pleased to be introducing our speaker today, Triesta Hall. Many of you know Triesta as our fabulous administrator here at Triple U, but you may not know she's a person of many talents, including an insight into how people think and work, and a way of explaining things that draws people in and makes them feel included. Her topic today is about I'll let you talk about it because the athleticism and the spiritual is going to be fascinating. So would you please join me in welcoming Triesta Hall?
Hello, everybody. It is so wonderful to see all of you in the room here, and even knowing how many people are online and seeing. I just wanted you to know you all have been sorely missed over this year. It's been some difficult times, and there was some dark nights of the soul, is what I've been saying over and over and over again. So I should say at the very beginning to ask for a little bit of grace, because it's been some time since I've talked, so I'm struggling not to talk too fast. So I should have had tea up here. I could have made that. So, but with the circumstances of last year, everything was thrown up into a bit of a contention. I don't need to talk about it. We all experienced it, some to differing levels than others. I feel very lucky. I don't know anyone directly that was lost to the disease, but I feel that we, in some ways, lost our way as a culture, as a country, as a world, even. So that made me want to do some searching. And because as Sarah mentioned, one of my guilty pleasures is how the mind thinks and how crazy we actually are in that. So I went on a bit of what I call a walkabout. You can tell Crocodile Dundee was on the TV last night as I was refining this. But first I'll set some ground rules, because I don't want to come to you as any kind of authority. I don't know. I don't know how, in true, what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know how things influence from one day to the next. But this is my research, which I have gathered, and what I've kind of thought about and theorized, and I'm bringing it to you. So I am more than willing at the very end, which is very unusual when I talk, we could have discussions. I almost made a joke about how I don't like to really hear other people's opinions, but that may not be a universal sense of humor within there. So my first start was the basics. Let's look at psychology and biology. These are the building blocks of who we are, how the body works and how the mind thinks. Where do they connect? And so evolutionary speaking, what I found out is humans are kind of in the middle, evolutionarily speaking. What I mean by that is, have we been, evolved, our body has not evolved that we will not die. In theory, if we were the top of our evolutionary chain, we would be immortal, and we're not. We are quite frail. Our eyesight is nominal. We can't see the same spectrum that a lot of other animals can. And we can't even see in the dark. And in fact, that's one of the big horror film tropes, isn't it? Think of the movie Silence of the Lambs, and I might be dating myself by saying that. But the scene where the hero, played by Jodie Foster, is walking around in the dark and the killer has night vision goggles on was absolutely terrifying. And we didn't see any violence on TV. There was no blood. There was no threat. It was the implication of what you can't see. I'm sorry? And the creepy music helps. I still can't listen to the Friday Nightmare on Elm Street song. Our sense of sound, our hearing, is not as fine-tuned as my cat is, and they might be the highest evolved animals. We're not real sure, but they like to think they are. So with this lifespan, if you look at it, if you want to judge by lifespan, a particular whale has the highest lifespan of a couple of 100 years in mammals. And so its body is completely dedicated to helping it survive over those couple 100 years. Now, the one on the lowest on the scale is a mouse. It lives for about 3 months to a year. So there's nothing in its physical nature that prepares it for any kind of longevity. Its entire purpose is to procreate, keep the species going, over and over. There's no, and we don't think, any type of thought that goes into an existential crisis that happens on the eve of their passing. In fact, how they act is quite driven by biology. And then emotionally speaking, and the emotional part is the one that really sent me on a little bit of a swirl, if you will, because also what was coinciding is that the government, a Florida senator, added into one of the more recent rules that the government was supposed to disclose what they knew about UFOs. And which was kind of interesting, that this, I don't really understand the connection between UFOs and COVID. Politics. But so there was a lot of anticipation about what was going to be said. Is there going to be evidence on life on other planets? And what I determined, or even what this other life is. And so the philosophers of the time suggested that if they were able to cross what they call the great filter, meaning come up with an idea of travel to actually get here, they must be highly evolved, and highly evolved means they're no longer tribalistic. And we're so evolved, we aren't that either. But in all honesty, as joking aside, emotionally, we are probably on par of a meerkat. Everything is by, there's a lot of group act, even group hypnosis, I would say. And that can lead into kind of an interesting discussion as to sound and words and actions are meant to elicit certain responses. And we give that every single time. But as much as I sit here and say where we are on this evolutionary scale, we have to acknowledge we're a scrappy bunch. We can't see in the dark. Someone invents electricity. We can't hold our breath underwater. Somebody invents scuba and submarines. So we have this idea of how to overcome our shortcomings. It's not a matter of languishing into what we are and what we were built with. We were meant to innovate as a species. That's one of the things that's a hallmark of who we are. And the truth is, we learn mimetically, meaning by copying, by modeling. And I can even remember when I was a child, my humor model was Bobcat Goldthwait, as I'm sure a lot of people can see the connection. And we learn our humor, we learn how we see the world, our thought models, by the people we see every single day. It's not just what we see in a classroom. The whole world is our classroom. So our parents, our neighbors, TV actors, sports, news, all of this informs who we are. And we are the sum total of what we surround ourselves by, to the positive and the negative. So it is important to be very mindful of the people you surround yourself by. And that has been a real hard thing because over this year, I have felt the need to have a news blackout. Not letting a little bit through. I don't think none of it. And I also understand that as I would consider myself a very loyal American, that feels unpatriotic somehow. But I also know that that is what I need to have mental health, as well. So look at who you are not just surrounding yourself by, who influences you. But Picasso had a saying, good artists borrow and great artists steal. And I'm sure I'm paraphrasing that, but he'd forgive me. But what that really means, let's break that down, because it sounds very cheeky, that he's admitting that he's copying other people. And I had a traditional art background. And I will tell you, my first couple of years, we were doing nothing but copying the master's paintings. You know, whoever we determined the masters were, before they even allowed us to do paintings of our own. So even in that mimetic method is what came through there. But I think we want to look at the words and the nuances of the words. Good artists borrow. The idea of borrowing something is that you are returning it in the same state it was given to you. So if I am borrowing from a very well-known artist, I've simply just replicated their work on a canvas or on a screen. But if I steal it, I'm influenced, and I put my own mark on it and how I see it, and bring it through my own lens. And I really want to emphasize that a lot, because I truly believe that the distinction in this quote brings up a lot of why we face imposter syndrome. We think we shouldn't be influenced. We think we shouldn't be mimicking. We think we should have completely original thoughts on our own 100% of the time, and if we don't, we're phonies. But the truth of the matter is that you have to look to others to model your actions. And in terms of knowing yourself physically, you know, athletes obviously are a really good choice. If I wanted to bake a petit four, I'm sure they're baked, I would go to study a French pastry chef. You go to the people that are in the tops of their game and look at what they're doing and see how it can bring something to you. We are on this planet for something. I can't tell you what it is. I don't know anybody can. I mean, is it a random collection of molecules? Cool, whatever. Is it something that is a little bit more deep? We shall find out. But the one thing that we are meant to do is experience and to learn and to look, to love, to inspire. So there is a famous designer by the name of Massimo Vignelli. And I don't expect people to know his name, but if you're in design, he's one of the masters. He's one of the ones who develop a lot of the theories and the rules that we use in design. And this is a perfect example of being in your own world. I even recognize as a designer, I have my own vocabulary. I have my way of looking at things that are very different. And I bring that to my life. But what Massimo Vignelli said, and to give you an idea, he's the one who actually designed the New York's subway system map and what became the model for what information design should be in our country and around the world. But his quote, again I'm paraphrasing, was, "Many people think shapes and color is what makes design. In reality, it's the elegant space in between." So what I want to say to you is that in your life, it's the same thing. You have two nominal events that are guaranteed are going to happen. One has happened, you were born. The other one hopefully comes many, many years in the future. You will pass. The space in between is yours to decide how you want to become the person you are and to model after. It requires you become hyper aware of the person you are. Athletes know only they are responsible for their performance. It's not the weather, it's not the heat, it's not the duck flying over. They are responsible for their own actions. And there's a strength in that. It's not saying that you have to be able to control everything in the environment. I think that would be a very naive interpretation of something like that. It isn't that. Because there is tons of things in life you can't control. So instead, you control what you can to prepare for what you can't. And so that puts the power in your own hands, does it not? You are not a victim. You are active. You're moving towards something. You're not a victim of something. So what this discovered about me, like I said, become hyper-aware, is over this pandemic, I discovered I needed tradition and my friends a lot more than I thought I did. I didn't need to eat out as much as I thought I did. At work, I missed the water cooler jokes and the bowling teams. I did not miss people microwaving fish in the common break area. But I think the important thing is to approach and to appreciate the humanness of who we are, with a sense of humor and absurdity, and that's my nod to my Stoics in the room. That because, I could use the simple phrase of none of us gets out of this alive, right? So, but I wanted to explain, what I discovered. There's so much in life we do for other people. I don't mean actions. I mean how we look, how our house looks. When you're examining what you do on a daily basis, you realize how many things you do because of how it makes you look to other people, or how you determine it looks to other people. And the truth of the matter is that people are so into their own stuff, they're not even looking. So make yourself happy. Make it work for you. For instance, as I mentioned, and I admit everything here. So during the pandemic, I decided that I was going to no longer dye my hair. Well, I tried once dyeing my roots, but it didn't work out so well. So I decided I was going to let it grow out. And because I couldn't go to my stylist, and because it was growing out, I always had my hair in a ponytail, always pulled it back. And, that formed a really big knot that I cut out. Not so, you can sort of see right here. And when it was first, because of the rest of my hair, you couldn't see it. But as it was starting to grow, you see this little bump, and I started calling, at first I was embarrassed. I would use water to put my hair down, and then I realized, you gotta embrace this. So I called it my baby croissant. and went on with it and made laughter. And you can't even see now, but this side of my hair is a lot shorter than this side, because on Father's Day, my father, who has dementia, lit the grill, or turned the gas on before I knew he had. And when I went to light it, that's a hard one to laugh about. But the idea, and please give me a second, I just wanted to, it reminded me of the idea of being too serious, reminded me of a short poem by Hafiz called Tripping Over Joy. And what I'm going to ask is a little bit of latitude in some of the language here. The original poem was not in English, so some of it's the translation, and they're using language that would be in your basic Judeo-Christian scenario. So let's just, a little bit of leeway for there, but you can understand what he's meaning. What's the difference between your experience of existence and that of a saint? The saint knows that the spiritual path is a sublime chess game with God, and that the beloved has just made a fantastic move. That the saint is now continually tripping over joy and bursting out in laughter and saying, I surrender. Whereas, my dear, I'm afraid you still think you have 1,000 serious moves. So athletes also teach us a lot about success and failure. Team sports, individual sports, it's a group of people against the problem. It's not people against each other. And as a nation, we've fallen into that. You know, it is almost at a civil war point where we are. But the truth is that we can come together and approach this problem as if it's something that all of us are dealing with. I don't know how, but hopefully we will move through. But what I will say is in order to come through to this point for you individually, culturally, we will get there. The thing to remember is that this world has always been messed up. I mean, can you ever point to one time in history where everything was just okay? Maybe a year, the summer of love or something. It was okay. But we will get through this as well. The key is you and you surviving it. So what I've determined, this is a kind of a theory I'm working on, and obsession is a prerequisite for mastery. Now, obsession does not guarantee mastery, but if you're not obsessed with it, you'll never master it. You have to dive into that world. You have to practice developing memory and pattern recognition. And I believe we had the speaker speaking about practice just a few weeks ago. In fact, just to give you an idea, one of the best athletes in our country, Michael Jordan, when he was actively playing still, he would still practice. You know, there's never a time he didn't feel he needed to practice. And the first thing he would practice every single time is a chest pass. Now, I'm not a basketball player, but for what I understand, a chest pass is something you're taught in elementary school. It's a basics. It's something that is so far skill-wise beneath him that it's something that you would think you can forego. He does not. He kept with every single step because the game is mental. The game is not just when you walk on the court, a new day has dawned and you've forgotten everything that you've done. And I think there's about perspectives. You know, I was thinking about that as well. And let's just picture we're on a train, or I'm on a train, and I've got a ball, and I'm bouncing the ball. From my perspective, that ball is very slowly bouncing. From the perspective of somebody on the railway platform, that ball is bouncing at 75 miles an hour. In the same respect, sitting in front of you here, I look like I'm not moving. But if you were viewing me from the moon, 186,000 miles an hour, we'd all be going right now. So it is about perspective. Now, of those perspectives, who's right and who's wrong? No one. And that's another thing that we have to get used to. We have to get away from this dual thinking. It's either right or wrong. And understand that everyone has a perspective that they're coming to. So I want to kind of finish with some uncomfortable truths and what I'll call is my life hacks, for how I overcame them too. Number one, the uncomfortable truth is that your ego will deceive you. Even after laying out like what I've been talking about, and I understand that evolutionarily speaking, scientifically speaking, I'm kind of touching the surface of what this is. I'm not a scientist, and I'm not even verifying sources to you. I could be making this up. But there's still going to be people out there who are going to say, not me. I somehow have got this hacked. I somehow know what's, I know this stuff. I see this stuff. I see it coming a mile away. So we'll render a test. How many people start their morning with a cup of coffee? A lot? Does it work? Yes. Yeah. The truth is, when you first wake up, the system that processes caffeine is not online for 90 minutes. You will not feel the effects of caffeine that you drink. The adrenal system is actually what's online when you first wake up, and that responds to salt. It does not respond to caffeine. So if you want a way that you can very easily knock caffeine out of your system or out of your diet, the first thing in the morning is a good way to do that, because you're bringing the effects of caffeine, but you're not getting any of the benefits out of it. And the fact that even though there is absolutely no biological way you feel the effects of caffeine, you still do. The placebo effect is very strong. And I've always suggested, I wish the whole pharmaceutical community would just go all placebo effect. I mean, we could cure a lot. So here's a life hack. Your very first morning is about your electrolytes. A simple glass of cold water with a little bit of lemon and sea salt is what jumpstarts your day in a way that caffeine never could. And then save your caffeine for later. Much later. Number 2, evolution exists to perpetuate the species. It does not care if you're happy or not. So with that, kind of going back to the idea of the quote, the space in between is completely up to you. It's what's within your control. So contrarians, ones who like to always find a reason why something shouldn't happen, or always throwing roadblocks, or what did you think about this? They are the equivalent of the meerkat going, oh no, oh no, oh no, where's the lion, where's the, well, I guess it'd be cougar, since it's the West. Always looking for some kind of danger, and they are the ones that are stopping evolution, to be honest. They have survived the longest because, well, they're not taking chances, okay? So they're surviving. It's worked for them for so long. But in truth, the matter is the idea of negating experience is only what is frustrating your soul. You can't have fear of change. It's what's due to happen. And I do believe that the contrarian, the one that is always seeming to find a reason why something can't work, does it because of this fear of change. It's easier to stay in your own lane. Again, evolutionary speaking, that's what the voice is telling you. Don't change. That way you live. So again, the body doesn't need you to be happy. It just needs you to survive. And it will tell you in those ways as well. So what I do is I think this comes back to being hyper-aware of yourself and your fears. Why you might say no. Why you might think something shouldn't work. Why you don't want the innovation. Why it bothers you somebody else came up with the idea, not you. Maybe. I don't know. I can't tell you what's going on in people's minds. So what I want to say is a life hack. Set aside the best hours of your day for yourself. So most of us are very busy, and that's very hard to do, but I'll explain what I mean. I take the hours of the morning between 9 and 10 as my check-in time. There's no meetings I have. I won't arrange anything to happen. I will not check email. That's my time to sit in, to plan my day. What do I want to do? What do I feel like doing today? What if I'm expected to do that I really don't want to do? And I know that that's hard to say. If I was to tell you, go home today and dedicate an hour of your day to just checking in with yourself. And I'm not talking about meditation. I'm talking about checking in with yourself as if it's a status meeting. Most of you would say you don't have time for it. And I was that person too. And in fact, to set up that time, I actually had to go 2 weeks or 2 months ahead in my calendar to mark it when to start. And then you slowly just start taking over that time and realize that if you're not giving the best of yourself to yourself, you can't give it to anyone else either. And lastly, what I would say is take everything that I've said with a grain of salt. Except the microwaving the fish thing, never, ever do that. Thank you for your time.
Tech team, are we able to do questions with the microphone?
With the handheld, yes.
You willing to take a few?
Sure.
How long has it been since we were able to do questions in person? The joy of it all.
Triesta, sorry, Triesta, I just wanted to say that I think it's artists, but I just read a book recently where they were talking about writers. Writers copy and good writers steal. I mean, that's really what they said. And the whole premise of the book was about that kind of idea. But I think that's so true. And I really, really love the fact that you emphasized that we learn by seeing what other people do. I mean, we really do stand on the shoulders. Sometimes we wish we weren't on those particular shoulders. So anyway, I really enjoyed the talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your kindness.
I have one. So when I was younger, I used to think, this thing that's happening in my life, it's because I'm living in the wrong place. Or I'm dating the wrong person. And as soon as I date the right person or move to the right place, then that problem will go away. And after moving and dating and moving and dating, and the same problems came up time and time again, I was forced to admit that maybe I was bringing those problems to it. And it shifted my thinking on what do I control versus what is externally controlled. And so I wondered if you could talk a little about how that shift happened for you, or what you've read in your reading about how people transition from what they do control to a better understanding of what they don't control.
I think that's a great question, and I think it's also, on a very large level, a question that most of the world's religions are really trying to figure out on how to do. Yeah, I've kind of come to the same place as you, that if I have a long list of failed relationships and I'm the commonality, then probably. It doesn't mean that there's no fault in someone else. It doesn't mean that you are a complete innocent person. They're innocent, you're guilty. And again, it comes back to that duality, that it doesn't have to be one or the other. The perspective is that both are correct. And we are just really trying to figure this world out. And so much of what, in the case of the dating, so much is dependent on the biological thought of, again, we have to propagate the species. So I think that there's a lot of attraction that happens to people that we truly shouldn't be attracted to because of what we feel their actions signal. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if
Thank
I'm
you.
saying that correctly.
Does anybody else have a thought or a question?
Oh, it's fine. Okay. Just in relation to that question you said that you had asked her, it's funny because I had been studying also yogic traditions about how we perceive things, the reality and a reality. We see a reality, not the reality.
Right.
And what we are as human beings on a scientific level, and biology and psychology, as you stated earlier, is an accumulation of memory. So we're talking atomic, elemental, environmental, genetic. So a lot of the way we perceive a reality is through the accumulation of memory. And essentially what we call digestion is an accumulation of food and so on and so forth. So reading from there, there's a practice, as you also stated, also how different religions and spiritual practices are in the study of it is being more aware consciously of what we choose to accumulate now. And what we view externally as conflict is what we're just accumulating from memory in our past. So being consciously aware of what we want to continue to accumulate will determine how we view that reality opposed to,
Absolutely. We to kind of piggyback off what you're saying, we determine how we're going to interpret any situation. I think that over this last year, we've seen some who've interpreted this as this is evidence of a greater conspiracy, that people are coming to wipe out the human race and to enslave XYZ. And let's just hope that's not true, but for them, that's real. That's the truth.
My thought about the different viewpoints both being correct, I often had people who were in conflict with each other, one of them telling me that it happened this way and the other one describing it in a whole other way. You would never imagine they were both at the same event. And so and they would say, no, that person doesn't know what they're talking about. No, you're warping that all out of shape. Say, okay, if you were sitting in the driver's seat and I said, describe your car, what would you tell me? Da-da-da-da-da, dashboard, blah, blah. And if you were standing over here at the passenger side, front corner, bumper, and I said, describe to me the car, what would you tell me? Both of you would be correct, but each of you has your own viewpoint.
Mm-hmm. And they're equally viable, even though there's some. And I think it should bring up even further thought of why we do not like when people have different opinions than us. And I believe that there's a lot of evidence that this is, again, back to tribalism and the idea of survival of the fittest, that, you want to fit in. And if you're out on the ice floe in the tundra, then obviously you are going to die and not propagate the species. So, I think that there's a very logical way of seeing that. And that's what kind of helped me when I would be reacting to different things, to remember, where is this feeling coming from? And this is, to your point, that's yoga tradition right there, to examine in meditation, to examine the feelings and the thoughts and then let them go. And I think that it's, it's something that we can bring into our waking life too. Thank you, Triesta. Thank you.
Let us extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our closing music is the song Simple Gifts, which is a traditional Shaker melody. It's performed by Yo-Yo Ma and Alison Krauss. And I have a fun fact for you. Do you know who Yo-Yo Ma credits with helping him deal with the difficulty and weight of being famous? Fred Rogers from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, who had a unique and wonderful way of dealing with fame. Treat each person you meet with respect and love, and try and do good with the world. So.
'Tis the gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift to come down where you ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we will not be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we will not be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right.
So let us go forth into the world through a door of hope for the future, remembering these words by Martin Luther. Even if I knew that tomorrow the world would go to pieces, I would still plant my apple tree today. So may it be with us. Have a wonderful week.